Hey guys, what's going on? So today, Mike McDaniel ends up getting hired by the Miami Dolphins, and I think that this is a pretty exciting. I think that this is a pretty exciting time for the Dolphins fan base. Mike McDaniel. I mean, it's tough for him because he's never really been like an acting head coach before, and the toughest parts for McDaniel are going to be organizing who's going to be the defensive coordinator. Does he have a lot of experience speaking in front of the players? You look at some coaches like Sean Payton handles offense. Matt LaFleur handles offense. Mike McDaniels did more interviews last year. Mike McDaniels, I mean, let's just call it how he is. He's an interesting guy. He wears the glasses. The way that he appears, he's a funny, he's a guy who cracks a lot of jokes. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot more safer candidates that were on the board for the Miami Dolphins, but this has a very high upside. And with Tua Tagovailoa and this offense needing to get rolling, I don't think you could have hired like a Leslie Frazier. I don't think that you could have hired, even a Jonathan Gannon. I think you did need a guy that is considered an offensive guru, and also that running game needs to get going. Now, I do like Kellen Moore a lot. His offense have been statistically great the last few seasons. I know that a lot of people are going to harp on their playoff deficiencies, but I believe Kellen Moore is going to really be a special coach. I think that he does command the room. I think that, as a quarterback, he's a guy that I think could be a brilliant play caller for a team. All right. So with Tua Tagovailoa also, it is an interesting hire in Miami. With Brian Flores, what he's alleging Miami did, I'm not sure about the pool of candidates that maybe wanted to work for Stephen Ross and wanted to work for that general manager in this time. But you get a guy in Mike McDaniel that, is going to be one of the more interesting coaches really in the NFL history. I mean, he's a Finn guy. He didn't play the game of football. I think he played it at Yale. And just, he's a guy that prides himself, he jokes around, he wears the glasses, he has a distinct look to Mike McDaniel. His hair is kind of very long-haired, and he's going to be a lot of fun as a head coach. Now, the key for Mike McDaniel is getting a defensive coordinator that is respected. It's organization within the team. Is Mike McDaniel going to be able to organize the Miami Dolphins? Is Mike McDaniel also going to help out Tua Tagovailoa and get him into the right plays, get him into the right fixes? And that's what's really exciting about the Dolphins is their offense with Tua and the stretch running game. The offense that was deployed by Jimmy Garoppolo can really be deployed in Miami. A lot of stretch runs, getting Gesicki involved, getting the tight ends involved. I expect Gesicki to have a really big season. Now, you're going to have to find a running back, but Jalen Waddle, I'm not saying he's going to be Deebo Samuel, but he already broke the rookie receiver reception total, maybe in NFL history. So Jalen Waddle's going to continue to progress. I thought that the offensive coordinators were pretty good. I like Josh Boyer as a defensive coordinator. I think that his schemes are really nice. Him and Flores did a great job on that side of the football. Getting rid of Brian Flores was specifically due to his inability, I believe, to get along with Tua. And then, of course, the tumultuous relationship that we find out that he has with the GM and the owner. So that's exactly why Brian was let go. I think Brian would have stayed, but I think Brian was really frustrated with this process, and they batted heads a lot amongst decisions. So, you still have D'Amico Ryans out there. I think D'Amico's going to, he's a great, one of the better coordinators in the league. He's going to probably get hired in the next cycle. Raheem Morris is on a championship team again. Raheem was a coach in Tampa Bay, so he might get, another go at it pretty soon. And it's looking like Lovie Smith in Houston is going to get a go at it. They were down to like Josh McCown, who doesn't have a whole lot of coaching experience, and then Brian Flores, who right now is suing the National Football League. So that situation has made it tougher, for, the NFL that is so involved in Houston to grant permission for Houston to hire Brian Flores. So they were really caught in a really tough predicament. I mean, with Houston being a rebuilding team already and the way that they fought last year, David Culley, I think that Josh McCown should have been a quarterback coach last year, and you can roll McCown, and it could have been a Culley to McCown transition where McCown could have been in the organization a couple of years because you love Josh McCown, and then he could have been the successor to David Culley because David Culley's in his mid-60s. Instead, that did not happen. But talking about the Miami Dolphins and this hire, I think for Tua, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun to watch the press conferences with McDaniel. I think McDaniel adds, a good young perspective. I think that his coaching style will intimidate the AFC East. I think he could be brilliant with run schemes. You look at San Francisco and the way they utilize Deebo Samuel, the way that they utilize all of these backs, even Jerick McKinnon, Alani Journeyman, Elijah Mitchell, all these guys, the way that they really coach offensive football is very, very fascinating there in Miami. I think that this is a really great hire. I'm really excited for it. Comparing the Dolphins to the other hires, I actually like this Dolphins hire better than Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel can be a little bit goofy. I think that in Denver, that time's going to run its course. I don't see him consistently being great. Matt Eberflus, I don't know. He's, a little too much into his slogans. I don't like his offensive coordinator hire. I don't necessarily think him and Poles are going to be great either. I think Brian Daboll could be pretty solid, and I think that McDaniel has a chance. Now, it could also be a disaster, but I think keeping the staff in order. I think the 10-hour meeting that McDaniel had with the Dolphins was very, very productive. It was a very thorough process in terms of the Dolphins finding McDaniel. And McDaniel's a guy who graduated Yale. McDaniel is, boy, oh boy. So, just getting some information, though, on my end, but let's look at Mike McDaniel. Let's look at his track record, all right? And I'm really excited for Mikey Mack. I mean, this is going to be, one of the most fun coaching, things ever. I really want this guy to succeed. He's from Colorado. He is 5'9", so, just the way that he takes pictures, like it makes him look shorter. But he has a distinct look. He has the long hair. He has the beard, the stash. He's cool. He's completely and totally himself. Wears the glasses. So, he was an intern in Denver out of Yale. He grew up in Colorado, was actually neighbors with Kyle Shanahan. So the coolest part is that they really know each other. Then in Houston from 2006 to 2008, he was an offensive assistant. Then he went to the Sacramento Mountain Lions for 1 year. That's the most interesting part in California. Then in 2011 to 2012, he was in D.C. with Kyle Shanahan and those guys. And the Washington football team, he was their offensive coordinator. They called the Redskins. They were 2011 to 2012. He was an offensive assistant again. All right, so 4 years of experience there. He's been doing this since 2005. Then he was a wide receivers coach in Washington as well. So this guy is really qualified. When you look at Nathaniel Hackett, that was an offensive coordinator for 3 years, and then he was a QB coach the last couple of years. Or you look at Matt Eberflus, who was only a defensive coordinator a couple of years. This guy is pretty damn qualified, Mike McDaniel, considering he also went to Yale University. Now, how well will he get along with the guys? Is he a real football guy? Is he going to communicate? How's he going to run a team? We don't know. We've never seen Mike McDaniel. It's always been him behind Shanahan. He's never been the guy. I know at Texas Tech, if you guys watch college basketball, Chris Beard was the guy, and then this older assistant took over and Mark Adams, but Mark Adams had a vision, and he's doing unbelievable. But again, this guy's directly correlated to Shanahan, so you're getting some of the Shanahan brilliance with this guy. And I know that the Dolphins fans are really excited. I mean, this guy is funny. This guy's like a Pete Davidson of the NFL. You hear that line all the time. But, this guy cracks jokes like who, Mike Jones, who, he is just a funny guy in terms of letting his personality show. He just doesn't care really whatever people think at this stage in his life. It appears behind a microphone. Then he went to Cleveland with Kyle. 2014, wide receiver coach. Atlanta Falcons, again, Atlanta, offensive assistant. So it's good he was a wide receivers coach for a couple of years. Then he was the run game coordinator for 3 years. Then he was the offensive coordinator. So Kyle does call the plays. That is the concern, right? Is that, this offense was pretty much Kyle's, and what are you going to do when Kyle's not holding your hand? But it's key for him to take San Francisco people with him if possible. And again, do the players really get along with Josh Boyer? I am shocked that Josh Boyer has not gotten any head coaching interviews. I don't know why Gannon got head coaching interviews and not Josh Boyer in the business. Gannon's agent is probably the best of the best. Pretty wild. I mean, Boyer in terms of success, Shane Bowen in terms of success, both of these defensive coordinators are really, really bright guys. They did not get any head coaching interviews in this process. But again, for Miami, the key is getting Tua Tagovailoa. And after these tumultuous, couple of years, considering how well Herbert and Burrow's playing, there's a lot of pressure on the number 5 overall pick in the 2019 draft. There's pressure on him, being really efficient, winning games, staying healthy, not letting the injuries catch up to him, getting a clean pocket, getting that offensive line rolling, and creating, somewhat of a good relationship. And I think Mike McDaniel, he seems like a pretty kind person. Seems like he wants a lot less power than Brian Flores. Kellen Moore comes more desired. Kellen was involved in this process. He would have helped Tua Tagovailoa out. I would have loved Kellen Moore to get this opportunity. But again, Kellen's in a really good spot. His name is still fresh. If he has one more really good year, I think that he's putting himself in a beautiful situation. Kellen could have even been interested in the Boise State job. So if you're going to feel bad for somebody, maybe feel bad for a coach like Joe Judge or coach like Urban Meyer or even, the coach John Gruden. They're going to have a lot of trouble getting opportunities to coach in the NFL again. All those guys flamed out for several different reasons on and off the field. But your Kellen Moores, Brian Flores, DeMeco Ryans, they're going to be right. Those young coaches, and Brian Flores is young, those guys are going to be in the mix because they're still very, very thought of. So it is sad sometimes when your guy doesn't get the job, in these cases. But if they're young and they keep putting in work, like even Josh McCown, for example, he should be the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator. He should study under Lovie Smith, and then eventually he could take this job over once he gets those really good years of coaching experience. So, again, I'm sure he did a great job during the interviewing process. I have no idea why he wasn't there last year. But that's Mike McDaniel. We'll talk a little Texans after this.